So, offtheball.com, that's the Carlo footballer, Dan Walker, facing a 4-year ban for positive meldonium tests. And Carlo GAA, obviously, he issued a statement fairly soon after our story yesterday, confirming that it was indeed him and that he would be accepting the 4-year ban. Obviously, it raises loads of questions, which we can get into in a couple of minutes' time. And again, stories about the third and fourth episodes of the Last Dance documentary series on Netflix, and it was all about Dennis Rodman. So the Rodman paradox, The Last Dance will make fans fall in love all over again. That's Kieran Bradley's piece on the site, and well worth digging out as well. Where are we heading first, Eoin?
The Irish Independent this morning leads with that story about the Carlo footballer. Carlo player accepts 4-year ban. Walker accepts suspension, but not intent after failed February drugs test. We've also got a picture there of Michael Robinson, who sadly passed away yesterday. And the other story on the back page is Dan MacDonald's piece that the FAI asked to produce figures as clubs remain cool on closed doors plan. So the League of Ireland clubs remain unconvinced that they can get back to playing, that it is financially worthwhile for them to play behind closed doors. The FAI feel otherwise, and they have this week now to persuade them that behind closed doors is an option. A couple of other stories doing the rounds. Premier stars fear rush to restart. Keegan keeps the faith. It's a big ask, but we still believe there is an All-Ireland in this Mayo team, he says. And Rory O'Connor today, rugby should welcome extra scrutiny in wake of Cronin finding.
Okay, so the Irish Times is next. The Irish Times, former Ireland international, was a man of many talents. A brilliant picture of Michael Robinson flying down the wing against Russia, or the Soviet Union more accurately. And I think that might be just before he whips in that cross for the goal. What a brilliant shirt it is. Like one of the most photogenic footballers ever to play for Ireland, and then obviously a man of many talents because he becomes a giant in broadcasting in Spain, to the point where Rafa Nadal is saying that he made us happy yesterday when he passed away. Sorry, he made us happy while we were watching TV, as opposed to, you know what I mean. Beloved figure found his way into Spanish hearts. That's from their Madrid correspondent. And clubs worried return may spark rise in COVID-19. It's the story that's rumbling on there about the football. And in England, the FAI awaiting feedback from stakeholders and return to play protocol. So the FAI are doing their best to come up with some plans and some way of getting people back into action. So that is your Irish Times this morning, and here is your Irish Examiner for you. GAA has case to answer over season ticket expert claims, and forced break may help Mayo's old guard, says Keegan. It's obviously a lot of those players probably could do with a bit of a rest. US interest, but League of Ireland needs FIFA cash boost, is John Fallon's story there. And lots of questions facing the GAA, but the answers are far less plentiful. So they haven't covered the Ray Walker story there on that page. Sorry, they have, yeah. Walker insists he did not knowingly take substance. So this is the story of the Cardiff footballer Ray Walker. I think I might have mistaken his first name a minute ago. Has maintained he did not knowingly take the banned substance meldonium, but has accepted a 4-year ban. Carlo GAA last night issued the statement saying Carlo GAA is aware that an adverse analytical finding against a member of its senior football panel is currently under the consideration of the Irish Sport Anti-Doping Disciplinary Panel. This is all a formality, really, because the reasoned decision was issued to the player on the 8th of April, so that's 21 days ago. He has 21 days to appeal. WADA can appeal, the GAA can appeal. There won't be any appeals. Obviously, he's accepted his 4-year ban, so you would expect tomorrow or the next day that there will be officially statements coming from Sport Ireland and subsequently statements from the GAA and the GPA around this as well. So it is going to be interesting to see exactly what the response is like there. And so the Dermot Jewell is the consumer rights expert. We spoke about this, I think, at the time, Eoin, about how prescient the terms and conditions were on the season tickets. It turns out that the clause saying that in the result of a global pandemic there won't be refunds was actually inserted after the global pandemic happened. So it hadn't been there nestling snugly for years. A clause was inserted to state there would be no refunds provided in the event of the GAA Championship due to circumstances outside of the control. The date of the amendment was picked up by Twitter account @GAAPicks, which highlighted that the terms and conditions had been updated from the version released in December. The GAA stressed it is within its rights to adjust its small print of the loyalty scheme without making holders aware of such messages. GAA may make changes and update these terms and conditions at any time without further notice to you, because there's a clause which protects them from doing that. So the clause was added the week ending March 15th, said Alan Milton to the Irish Examiner. Amendments are catered for in the terms and conditions in the ticketing department of liaise with the season ticket holders who have made contact with various queries since the games have stopped. Like, it is a community organisation. It desperately needs funding at this time. If people can, so I had tickets for a play, and they keep ringing and saying, do you want the credit note or do you want your money back? And I'm going to keep the credit note, because I think that I can afford the cost of these 2 tickets for now, and if they put another play on down the road, then I feel like there's a minor bit of support going on, right? So I'm not exactly busting my balls here, but likewise with the season ticket holders, I think most GAA members are going to look at this and go, fair enough, you're a community organisation. However, in some instances, if people need the money back and they want that refund, then there probably needs to be some mechanism to help those people too.
It's interesting though, isn't it, that you can have something in your terms and conditions that says we can insert new terms and conditions at any point that we like. That's a fairly handy thing to have. I'm surprised. It definitely changes my view on this a small bit when I saw the story a couple of weeks back that the small print did exist about a global pandemic. I was like, fair enough. That's obviously them being well ahead of the curve. It does change it a small bit now that it was inserted afterwards. It has to. And I think if people have financial struggles and would actually do something with that money and it would make a big difference to them, then obviously I think they should have the right to a refund, no question about it. But I also hear what you're saying, that, I think the GAA has already spent some of this money in terms of giving back to clubs, for example. I'm not quite sure exactly where the money is going, but I know that a section of the season ticket money does go back to grassroots in the GAA, and some of that has already been spent. So, who knows? Maybe it's a situation where season ticket holders get a discount on next year's season ticket were they not to actually have were there to be no games for the remainder of this year, and that way the GAA can probably readjust their spend next year. It's just an added tricky situation now that they've already spent some of this cash. It naturally raises a few eyebrows, and it's a great spot that the terms and conditions were updated after the change of the pandemic, because after the arrival of the pandemic, because we kind of said this is unbelievable. This is some foresight from the organisation to actually have this clause in.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like a piece of stunning prediction of what was going to happen in the world from whoever ended up writing us, but actually it was just somebody going, hey, look, we can update these now. And look, it's not ideal when you end up discovering these things and having to answer questions from the back foot. But look, I'm sure they're going to be able to work something out. And so you're a season ticket holder, right? How do you feel about it?
I'm okay with it, to be honest. I'm not up in arms about it. Similar to yourself, I kind of appreciate the value of everybody's contribution to the GAA. That being said, we're both in very fortunate positions to actually be able to do our job every day at the moment. Were that to change, who knows what the situation, who knows what financial situation you could be in then to actually say, well, I actually need every single euro at this moment. Also, as well, my view might change a little bit if things were actually cancelled. The things haven't been cancelled just yet. Again, I'd be astonished if anything actually went ahead this year, especially when it came to the remaining National League fixtures. But I'm okay with it personally, but I definitely can't speak for everybody on that front.
I mean, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that there are 2 league games in December, really, is it?
Well, the thing about that is that there is a function to it. It's not like it just tails off to the end. You do want to see the relegation and promotion questions decided this year, even if it is December, as you say, or even before next year's Allianz League is set to get underway. So that way you can have next year's league actually properly aligned, and then you can have next year's Tier 2 championship properly aligned. So there's a huge value to that, definitely. And as you say, it's only 2 weeks. So it could actually fit the perfect window that might come up at the start of next year or at the end of this year, whenever things might actually be safe to resume.
All right, what's next?
The Irish Daily Star is next. Call the Cops is the headline. Cops with a K. Police fear Anfield's title party. And PSG plan to finish abroad. So the owners of Paris Saint-Germain have seized the opportunity of no French sport happening before the start of September. And they're like, screw the Parc de France. We're going to Qatar to play the rest of our games if we're able to do that. So that's where they're planning to finish the rest of their season, and actually, see out the league, the league title that they so badly has sought. The Paris Saint-Germain, they'll be delighted that the party in the streets of Paris will be 10 times more than the party in the streets of Liverpool should Paris Saint-Germain do the unthinkable and win
the league. Yeah, it's so unexpected.
Just the other couple of stories from the start there. GAA can't leave players hanging all summer, says Lee Keegan, and that doping ban for Walker is mentioned as well.
I guess the point about Paris Saint-Germain is that they're desperate to play some football because it will keep them in the Champions League, and that's the back page picture there as well. It's Neymar and Mbappe. Sport ban in France sends UEFA into chaos. So essentially all organised sport has been banned until September, which means that the Champions League can't continue. That's why they're talking about perhaps playing some games in Qatar. I wonder would everybody be happy to fly to Qatar to play Paris Saint-Germain as their home ground? Not quite sure it would work like that, but anyway, we'll wait and see.
They can test out a few of the new stadiums. Are they finished?
I mean, look, it's a perfect thing for Qatar. They're obviously very ready for this World Cup, and there's no issues around that whatsoever. Top players fear rush to restart will risk health. This is what's happening on Friday. There's a meeting of the Premier League clubs, obviously by teleconference or video, whatever they're using, Zoom, Teams, who knows. And the clubs apparently are very anxious about what's about to happen. The only caveat to all these stories coming out are the last time that this meeting happened, there was going to be uproar about the season ending early, and then it didn't even come up as a conversation topic. So if the pattern is true here, leaks, kites being flown, deals done in the background, and a unified front will emerge on Friday where the Premier League clubs have decided unilaterally to kick the can down the road for another 2 weeks until something happens and the government step in and say you can't play football because it's too dangerous, or we have found a specific way to play football, or we have sorted something out that will allow this to happen. Because essentially they're asking the Premier League clubs to make this massive public health decision, even though the Premier League clubs aren't qualified to do so. And the Premier League clubs are concerned at the moment that they're being used as some kind of smokescreen for a mishandling of the crisis on the part of the British government. So, difficult decisions for everybody involved in football to be making at the moment.
Very interesting layer to it all. Is it not that the Premier League clubs would actually start to feel this? That I think it's almost unusual. You would think for Premier League clubs to say, give us direction, given the amount of brains that I assume that they all think they have, and they would love to be able to handle every global pandemic, I'd imagine. But even at this moment, I'd say they're kind of sitting on ice a small bit and thinking to themselves, we need to actually be told here, otherwise this is going to look very, very badly on us if something goes wrong.
Yeah. So the Irish Daily Mail is next for me. And, from you, yeah. Yeah,
career ender is the headline on the Irish Daily Mail this morning. Banned player says failed test unintentional, and GAA defends stance on ticket refunds.
Yeah, the Glasgow boss Dave Rennie is also saying there that he thinks Leinster should be given the Pro 14 title now. Edinburgh not so happy with that, obviously, because they're top of the other conference and they're like, hang on, we just have one game. Just give us one game against Leinster, give us an opportunity to beat them. I mean, it's not like Leinster are going to be a fully formed thing in their first game back. So a bit of brother-on-brother rivalry in rugby in Scotland. The next one for me is the London Times. It's a picture of an actual football training session with two recognisable footballers. So Germans step up bid to return to action. It's Lewandowski taking a shot, Manuel Neuer saving it. We can do a bit of commentary after this one. I want to save from training. I don't know if they have a channel. I'm presuming Bayern Munich do have a channel. Are they televising their training? If they're not, they should be. We'd all watch. Olympics cancelled if crisis lingers. This is another one of those stories. It's like there's this one. There's the headline there, revolt over Project Restart. And there's the Connacht Council guy saying, look, finish the year now. You're like, okay, so no Olympics next year. No football this year, and no GAA at all in 2021. You can put all these stories together, and we certainly have a good case to talk to Sam McConkey about what needs to happen and what he thinks is going to happen, and he's going to join us in about 15 minutes' time. But the Tokyo Olympics will be cancelled rather than delayed if the coronavirus crisis continues into next summer. the head of Japan's games, has said, this guy's an ex-president or probably Prime Minister of Japan and president of the Tokyo Olympic Committee, and says if the games have to be moved again, that's it. So it's happening next year or they don't happen at all. And he is hopeful that they will happen next year. But obviously a lot of different things have to happen between now and then, particularly if Japan would need to be comfortable that people from all around the world are going to be able to come, the athletes, and not bring the coronavirus with them.
They've spent a lot of money on this thing already. There's a point, I'd imagine, that people within the country will be like, we need to get people in here and actually give some of the money back so that we're not bankrupting ourselves too much. Like it's, I'd like to know the reaction from the Olympic Council and from the people in Japan who are heavily invested in this to those comments, actually, to see if they're actually supporting that or not, because he's clearly talking a lot of sense. That spokesperson there, I would say that this thing is very, very much in danger next year of not happening. The Irish Sun is the last one for me this morning. It's a picture of Harry Kane with a speech bubble saying, I might as well drive back home, because FIFA's medical chief says cancel the season. It's a life and death situation. And you've also got a bullet point there mentioning the French league being stopped and Toon television row. This is Premier League clubs raising their concerns over Saudi Arabia and television piracy. And that is the Irish Sun for you this morning.
Okay, so if anybody wants to get